This is Advanced Math 4.8 notes. That is Unit 4, Lesson 8. The title is Write Equations from Trig Graphs. So we are working backwards in this lesson, and these will be on the test. Write the equation in terms of the sine function. So they're telling you specifically which function to use. Now you may say, well, these all look like sine, and they do, but remember, sine and cosine, when they're graphed out more than one period, can be shifted and translated to look like each other. So sine function is what we are graphing or working backwards from. So take a look. You can tell that my axis, there's no vertical shift. It's right here at the 0. I can see the max is 3 and the min is -3, which means the amp is 3. Can you see that the amp is 3? Or find the length here and cut it in half. Half of 6 is 3. Either way, the amp is 3. Y equals 3, we know it's sine, of bx. Why bx? Because I haven't taken my period into effect. Now I would put plus if there was any vertical or horizontal shift out here, but there is not. And I would have parentheses here specifically if there was a horizontal shift. Since there's no horizontal, no vertical, no parentheses, no number on the outside. So how do we figure out the period? We know the period length is 2 pi over b. So I'm going to plug it in. I don't know what b is, that's what I'm looking for, but I know my period length from start to end is 4 pi equals 2 pi over b. Multiply both sides by b, you get 4 pi b equals 2 pi. Divide both sides by 4 pi. Gone. B equals, pi is gone, and 2 over 4 reduces to 1/2. And that's really all we were looking for, so my final answer is y equals 3 sine of 1/2 x. You could write that as x over 2 if you wanted. That is up to you, but this is the answer, where if I asked you to graph this, your graph would end up looking like that graph there. Okay, next one. We can tell that there is a vertical shift here. There is a fake axis. I'm just going to slightly draw it in. How do we find that fake axis? We find the midpoint of the max and the min. What's midway between 1 and 5? You add and cut in half. It's just like you would on the other ones when we've done them on the x-axis. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 cut in half is 3. So 3 is my vertical shift. Can you see that? We can put a little note here. Vertical shift is 3. Amplitude is what? 2 ways of finding it. Just count from 3 to 5. That's probably the easiest. It is 2. Or find the length between 5 and 1. It's 4, and 4 cut in half is 2. Your choice on how you find it. Okay, so we have our vertical shift is +3, and we found that by finding the midway between the max and the min. Amplitude is 2. Easiest way is 3 to 5 or 3 to -1. What else do we? And let's go ahead and start to negative sign. So -2 sine b, I don't know yet, plus we don't know this number yet either. So we'll put plus d. Now, how do we actually, we do know this number, we can just fill it in now. Vertical shift we know is up 3. How do we know that? Because that's where our fake axis is here, so we know we're moving up 3. That's where that +3 is coming from. All I have left is to find b, and again we use our period length is 2 pi over b. We know the period length is pi. Pi equals 2 pi over b. Multiply both sides by b. Pi b, or b pi, equals 2 pi. Divide both sides by pi. B equals 2. So y equals -2 sine of, up here I should have put bx, and I apologize, 2x plus 3. Okay, so again, I just had b, I'm hoping I said bx plus 3. Y equals -2 sine of 2x plus 3. And that is it for number 2. Okay, next one, we can tell that there is no vertical shift, but there is a horizontal shift. So let's go ahead and get started on this one. Y equals, what is the amp? The amp is 1. Can you see that? My axis is the x-axis. There's no fake axis. And it goes up to a 1, so the amp is 1. So I just need a positive 1. You can write it. You do not have to. I'm going to leave it there for now. Sine of, we don't know what the b is, so I'm going to put the b out here. And then x plus my translation. How do I know there's parentheses on this one? Because of the starting point not being at 0. It's been translated to the left one, so I know there's a horizontal shift, and when there's a horizontal shift, there is parentheses in the problem. All right, so let's go ahead and find b. 2 pi over b equals the period. What is the period length? Let me write that down first. Period equals 2 pi over b. A period is the length from your start to your end. From -1 to 3, that's a total length of 4. Or you really just do your right, or your end, minus your start. 3 minus -1 comes out to be 4. So 4 equals 2 pi over b. Go ahead and hit pause and solve that on your own, and hit play and see if we end up with the same thing. All right, b ends up equaling pi over 2. And we're ready to plug things in and see what happens. Y equals sine of pi over 2, parentheses, x, and c, that's your horizontal. This is your horizontal translation. Well, I shifted left 1, so what would go in the parentheses? +1 or -1? It would be +1. And that there is your function. Now, it's easiest if you, it's actually, you should do it this way. Leave your b on the outside, don't distribute. If you do distribute right now, that's fine, but you would do it after you find your +1. But it's easiest to just leave it out instead of distributing. So this is the answer for number 3. If you were to go through and graph this and find your start and find your end, you would end up with your start at -1 and your end at 3, your amp of 1, and you'd end up with everything working out. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is asking us to graph with cosine. So again, it's specifically telling us which function to use. And I can tell that there is not a horizontal shift, but there is a vertical translation. So I'm just going to eyeball the middle and see if we can figure it out. Now, I told you guys earlier how to find the middle. You add and cut in half. It's the midpoint. Midpoint formula is you add 2 numbers and cut them in half. What's 3 plus -11? Oh, excuse me. Cut in half, you end up with -4. 3 plus -11 is -8. Cut it in half, it is -4. Write that down in case you forget. 3 plus -11 divided by 2. That's how you find your vertical shift. All right, we have enough to find the amp. The easiest thing is just count from -4 to 3 or -4 to -11. You would end up with that it is 7. The length here is 7. or down here is 7, or do 3 minus negative 11 and cut it in half. You'd get 14 cut in half is 7. Either way works. Okay, y equals, amp is 7 and it's positive 7 cosine. There is no right-left horizontal translation, so it's just going to be bx. And then I moved down 4, so minus 4. It's only opposite when it's a right and left translation like this one was here. Plus 1 because we moved left 1. If you move down 4, it is minus 4. Okay, so b is the only thing we have left to find out. Period is 2 pi over b, and period length is pi over 3 because I start at 0, end at pi over 3. Pi over 3 equals 2 pi b. Multiply both sides by b, hit pause, see if we end up with the same answer. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, so I'm going to multiply by 3 over pi. The pi's will end up reducing, so b will end up being 6. Pi is reduced, 2 times 3 is 6. So my function is y equals 7 cosine, not b, we already found b is 6. Y equals 7 cosine 6x minus 4. And it's positive cosine, so we leave it positive. All right, flipping over to the back page. Number 5, write as in terms of a tangent function. Okay, so they're telling us to use tangent, and it's already split, so that's nice. There is no horizontal translation. My 0 is at the origin, so that means there's no vertical, so it should be pretty easy to figure out. Y equals, okay, you can see that the amp is 3, the fake amp as we talked about. It's going and decreasing, and I'm graphing tangent, or trying to find the function for tangent. So if it's decreasing in tangent, it has to be negative. So I know it's going to be negative. The amp is 3, so negative 3 tangent. I don't know my period, or I don't know my b. Bx, and I don't have any plus c or d, no parentheses, none of the extra stuff at the end because there's no vertical or horizontal translation. All right, so 2 pi over b or pi over b. Period equals pi over b. Be very careful with that one. Period equals pi over b. My period length is from negative pi to pi. So my period length is not pi. My period length is 2 pi equals pi over b. Multiply both sides by b. You get 2 pi b equals pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi. Your pi's will reduce. B equals not 2 but 1/2. The pi's are gone, one's left at the top. B equals 1/2. So you have y equals negative 3 tan of 1/2 x, or x over 2, depending on how you want to write it. That there is your answer. Okay, number 6, evaluate. Just a reminder on how to do these. If a non-inverse is on the outside, you're going to end up with an angle answer, and you do the inside first. Remember the suntan at the beach, arc sine, inverse sine, they are the same thing. Inverse sine is the right half, top or bottom. It's positive, so we know we're going to be in quadrant 1. And quadrant 1 is the easiest to work with. Sine of what angle is root 3 over 2. Sine is the right half, so that would be 60 degrees. So you're thinking 60 degrees. And since I am in quadrant 1, it sure is 60. And cosine of 60 degrees. And I did say it incorrectly in the beginning, and I apologize. If it's cosine or tangent, a non-inverse function on the outside, your final answer is going to be a fraction or a non-angle answer. Okay, so cosine of 60, you know it, hand trick, unit circle. Cosine of 60 is 1/2, fraction answer, a non-angle answer. Okay, non-inverse on the outside, non-angle answer. Same thing here. Non-inverse on the outside means a non-angle answer. Let's do the inside first. Okay, so still inverse sine, so I'm still at the beach on the right side. It's negative, which means I'm in quadrant 4. Sine of what angle is 1/2? That one is this one, 30 degrees. Now, is 30 degrees what you're working with? No, because I'm in quadrant 4. So I don't do tan of 30, I do tan of, now kids often do 330, but remember that you're going between -90 to +90. When you're dealing with inverse functions and you're in quadrant 4, it's always a negative angle. So tangent of -30 degrees. 30 degrees, tangent is y over x, 1 over √3, and in the fourth quadrant, tangent is negative, so -1 over √3 is your answer. And I am going to give you 2 of them to try on your own, numbers 8 and 9. 8 is arc sine of sine of 2 pi over 3. Arc sine of 2 pi over 3. Inverse on the outside means an angle answer, so this final answer will be an angle. Number 9 is cosecant of arc cosine. I'm just going to write this one the other way just so we get used to seeing them both ways. Arc cosine of -2/5. Now, this one does not have an inverse on the outside, so non-inverse on the outside means a non-inverse answer. This is going to come out to be a fraction answer, angle answer, fraction answer. Remember on this one here, this is one of the tests that kids struggle with. -2/5 is not on your unit circle, which means you are going to have to draw your picture. Keep in mind where inverse cosine is defined. Draw your picture in that quadrant if it's negative. Draw your triangle and then find cosecant of the triangle and you are done. All right, that's it for this lesson. We'll discuss more of this in class tomorrow.